is it time? I guess yep, it is. Move to return from executive session.
Second.
Mrs. Lawston?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes, and please join us with the pledges of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Lawston?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. Okay, public forum. Right into public forum. Individuals who wish to address the board should state their name and address for the record, make their points as clearly and concisely as possible, and limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes, which may not be shared with or yielded to others. All comments shall be directed to the Board of Township Trustees. Thank you in advance for your comments. Yes. Hello.
Hey, Bruce.
How are you?
Hey.
I'm Bruce Burno. My address is 2156 Heather Hill Boulevard. First of all, I want to compliment everyone. I always think we have just 110% quality of service in every regard, in every department in the whole township. And Mr. Girth made the comment a few years ago, I think, that you get more feedback on the chicken stores and tire stores on Beach Month than you do on tax levies and budgets and things. So I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about
Sounds good.
the tax levy, the tax good. And I know I have 3 minutes or 2 minutes and 38 seconds left, so I'm just going to make a couple of comments, and I can send these to you later or see whatever. But first of all, one of the questions here, what are the citizens going to get if the levy passes? Are we maintaining the same level of service, the same level of staffing and services, or are we, increasing fire and rescue with an additional ambulance, or are we going to have to brown out a fire station if it fails? Are we going to be able to add or increase deputies? You made the point about, increased number of calls. Second point is, since 2017, there's been a cumulative $9 million surplus. So where has that money gone? The projected 2024 and 25 deficits of about $3 to $4 million a year. That surplus should cover us through most of 2026. The third point is the 2024 budget detail appropriations are up about 14% for sheriff and fire. Mostly fire, and I presume that's attributable to trying to hire 6 additional firefighter paramedics. But the fire head counts only in 2024 is only projected to go up by 3 heads. So some of those numbers just don't balance, and maybe that's because I know there's been a shortage of not being able to find any applicants, right? And then I don't know what the timing is of the renewal of the contract with the village in Newtown, and if that contract will get a commensurate increase in the cost of commensurate with the tax levy. And next point is, are we being aggressive with the MS billing and collections? I understand it's always been a difficult challenge. Next point, we added a school resource officer. I think that's great, unfortunately necessary in our world today. But I note that Forest Hill School District paid for the second one. The township's still paying for the first one. I don't know how long that agreement lasts or contract, but Forest Hill's just passed a huge school levy. I think they can pay for both their SROs. I would just make a point, Anderson Township Park District has their own officer, but they pay for their own officer. The township doesn't provide the Park District with an officer. And I know you presented the case about the number of increase in calls, but I think it's really a matter of increase in inflation. I'm a finance guy too, I think, for those of you who might know me. So basically, the expenses have been up by 3.8% a year for the last 6 years, since 2017 to 2023, since the last levy. The consumer price index, which is not quite what the township deals with, but what citizens deal with, was up 3.6%. Core inflation was up 3.4%. So all right in line with that. So it's not like no one's going to like this. It's not like the sheriff's officers and police officers are getting double-digit pay increases or anything like that. So it really isn't a matter of increased calls, although I know calls have been increased, but we've been able to handle those calls with the same number of amount of staffing. And I don't think we're getting into a case where, someone's called 911 and all 3 ambulances are tied up and can't get dispatched. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. How am I doing on time? Out of time already.
I think the buzzer went off.
Yeah. I could go on just
okay.
another second here.
Yeah, you're asking good questions. So I want
The last thing is that you state the current levies in year 8 of a projected 5-year life. I wouldn't reference that 5-year metric. I would just focus on the, that's kind of, I think it's kind of potentially a politically misleading statement, or it's an indication of poor forecasting. Can't blame Brian on that. He wasn't here then. But, the public safety levies have consistently been 8 years, since 1985. So it's just time.
Right.
I think everyone, hopefully they understand that. I don't think any citizens have the same pay level that they had in 2016. I hope. Even the retired people got their yeah, there's some less. But even the retired people on Social Security have gotten increases, and I know everything else has gone up too. And then just the last comment is, how are you going to kind of market the levy? I haven't seen much on it. I've seen the newsletter, and no, I'm not volunteering to be on the levy committee.
I know. I was just thinking, boy, what are you doing, Bruce? You
But
busy?
those are just my comments and questions, and thank you for giving me some extra time.
Thank you.
I was going to tell a few jokes, but I'm out of time, so sorry.
Thank you.
Bruce, you said, can you email that to one of us just so we can get back and answer all those?
And Bruce, I'd be happy to meet with you as well, and I'm sure Rick we could sit down and go over everything if that would be helpful.
Because there is a levy FAQ on our website.
Yes.
And so you're. That's where I got all this information. Yeah. So it's like, it's nice to answer all those.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to look at all the information. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know that I just saw you earlier this week. So well thought out your questions. You referenced the FAQ, but I think that gives us some opportunity to clarify things a little bit better. The branding, the marketing, the messaging. Thank you for that.
No, I did read that. It's not a couple hours. It was really very
Thank you, Mr. Berna.
Okay. Any other? Yes.
My name is Megan Hartley, and I'm the branch supervisor,
Thank you.
youth
Yeah.
services for the Anderson branch at the Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library. I just wanted to promote that September is National Library Card Sign-Up Month. So if you know of anybody who hasn't signed up for a card yet, this is a great time to do it at the start of the school year. Also, in case people weren't aware, you can register to vote at our library, because you can come and pick up the paper and we will send it down to the Hamilton County election office for you. We also can let people request absentee ballots. So make sure I want everybody to know about that service we offer. We also have programs for all ages. We want people to come in and enjoy using the library. There's story times on Mondays and Thursdays, Curious Kids Club for school-age kids the second Tuesday. We have a tween graphic novel book club for that difficult-to-reach tween audience, first Tuesday of the month. We have a program called Ethics and Dragons on Wednesday evenings that is teaching teens how to be ethical using the game of Dungeons and Dragons. There is stuff for adults too. Try It Out Tuesday. There's a Cozy Corner Book Club. We've got some painting classes and art classes coming up. And you can always check on our website for our calendar of events. And we have a little paper calendar that we give out to people at the branch. I'm good on time.
Thank you.
Any
Megan.
questions, just let any of us know.
Great.
Thank you.
That's some great information. Yeah, library cards. I use mine all the time. I
That
know
I
mine.
believe.
Know mine by heart.
Thank
And thank you for sharing that about the voter registration. That's good to know. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Trustee comments. Well, I have one that we'd like to share. Josh Girth is one of this year's distinguished alumni for the Forest Hills Foundation. It's an event near and dear to my heart. Actually, the very first distinguished, yes, congratulations. That's a luncheon that will be held on October 4th. The very first distinguished alumni event was held right there in that theater, probably, I'm thinking maybe 10 years ago, I think.
Wow.
So it's been happening for a long time now, and it's great that Josh has been honored that way. So congratulations.
Congratulations, Josh. Well deserved.
And any other comments?
Well, somebody clearly made a mistake at the Forest Hills Foundation. So, thank you, Dee. I appreciate the comments. You know, I added it up the other day. I have been involved with the Forest Hill School District for between me going there, Wilson Turpin, my kids, and obviously doing this job, 73% of my life has been involved
Wow.
with the Forest Hill
Wow.
School District to date. So it's obviously been an important part of my life. So
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Be- You gotta give a speech, you know.
Oh, there'll be a speech.
Can't wait. So, okay.
3 minutes.
3 minutes, that's right, 3 minutes, that's all you get. Lexi, anything?
No, just that I believe the farmer's market's coming back, and I think it runs through, September through October.
Hasn't it been long?
Well, but I thought last year it ended, right after Labor Day. So
Oh,
is
it did?
being-
I think
thought
it does
so.
extend into
It was
October now.
extended.
I'm not exactly sure.
I'm not
but
sure.
I
Well,
knew
I
they
thought
did
it was,
extend
but anyway, that was really, I don't really have any other comments for tonight.
Josh,
Any comments?
anything?
Nope. All
Nothing
good.
from me? Except Josh's brother's here. Welcome.
Hey, Bo.
And Pam.
Yeah? Yeah.
Sarah. Mom,
Okay.
Dad.
Mom, Dad, Josh's whole family.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Brian.
Okay, first of all, if you want to add me to that invite, I can answer some levy questions too, so you can include me. All right, the financials that you have include the second half settlement that we got from the county. So the general funds collected 85% of what we've estimated, and all funds were at 92%, so we're pretty much finished collecting money at this time. We're working on the calculation for the schools portion of the TIF funds, so we'll get that out pretty soon. Item B, we need a resolution for the then and nows. There's just one on there this time.
I move to adopt the resolution authorizing payments.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
And then you'll see a slew of minutes, and down at Romanet 4 and 5, you'll see who was here and who was
Okay.
absent.
So then you want me to, I'll do the first.
You can do the first three together, can you? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, okay. So I move to adopt the meeting minutes as presented by the fiscal officer for June 20th, 2024, July 15th, 2024, July 18th, 2024, and I can do the first, correct?
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And August 1st, 2024.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Actually, you can't do it.
Yeah,
Oh, we
you
had to
can't do
separate
the-
those.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, so let me get back. I move to adopt the meeting minutes for June 20th, July 15th, and July 18th.
Second.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Okay, and I move to adopt the meeting minutes from August 1st, 2024.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Abstain.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
And I'll move to adopt the meeting minutes from August 28th, 2024.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Abstain.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
And then we have one appropriation amendment. That one's not in your PDF, but it's in paper. So we got some One Ohio opioid settlement funds, and we need to appropriate that.
I move to adopt the appropriation amendment as outlined by Fiscal Officer Brian Johnson.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. Okay, let's see. Anything, okay, Tammy. Hello.
We're just seeking approval for the remaining lighting district up for renewal this cycle. I can answer any questions if you have any on it.
I move to adopt the resolution awarding contract and confirming assessments for Rolling Rock Lighting District pursuant to revised code sections 9.30, 515.08, 515.081, and 515.11.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's the only one? Oh, good. Thought there might be hundreds. Okay, thank you. Okay, Rick.
Good evening. I wish a gentleman had stuck around for this item. Back in February, the Township trustees gave the fire department permission to apply for the 2024 EMS priority grant from the Ohio Department of Public Safety. I'm happy to say that a few weeks ago we received notice that we're going to receive $3,264.88 from that application at no cost to the township. It's basically used for EMS training equipment. And what I'm asking for tonight is your consideration of a resolution to accept those grant monies.
I move to adopt a resolution accepting grant from the Ohio EMS Priority Grant, Ohio Department of Public Safety Division of Emergency Medical Services pursuant to the authority of Section 505.10 of the revised code.
Second.
Mrs. Austin?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
That's all from the fire department.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
great.
Thanks, Chief.
Just so everyone, our township does a very good job at pursuing grants, and they do such a good job, we get a lot of them. So that's great that, grants are good money for us, so thank you.
Super appreciative of that.
Okay, let's see, planning and zoning, sheriff's, nope. Public Works, and Vicki, Township Administrator.
Yes, good evening. The first item I have for the board's consideration is our annual information filing. This is part of our continuing disclosure agreement in conjunction with our 2019 general obligation bond. That bond was issued to take care of costs associated with the renovation of the Anderson Parks Recplex, which the Board of Township Trustees purchased to ensure indoor recreation for the township. The renovations were completed by township using this bond. The bond is funded through a TIF on the Anthology development, which is next door. Every year, in order to comply with our agreement for continuing disclosure, we have to provide this annual information filing. It is then filed with the MSRB, the municipal, I've got to look it up, I always forget, Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. So there is a resolution before you. There are a couple of blanks in the annual information filing. Mrs. Disk and our law director, Margaret Comey, and I are working on those, and we'll fill that in, but it has to be filed by the end of the month. So I would ask for action.
Thank you. I move to adopt the resolution accepting and approving the annual information filing of the township for fiscal year 2023 and directing its filing with the MSRB for continuing disclosure purposes.
Second.
Mrs. Austin?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
And next, it is that time of year where I would ask the board to set the trick-or-treat hours for Halloween. There is a motion in your packet.
What if we don't set it?
I know. What if we
What
set it for
happens?
like a different day? Kidding.
Will it happen if we don't?
We don't
pass
want
this
that
resolution?
pandemonium.
Yes. Everybody can set their own hours in
That's
their
right.
neighborhood, but these are the
Whatever you want.
official
You're such a
hours.
rebel today. Okay.
I move to set Thursday, October 31st, 2024 from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. as Halloween trick-or-treat in Anderson Township.
Second.
Mrs. Austin?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hopefully it'll be good weather.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
The next item relates to signage enforcement. I wanted to inform the board of some recent action that I've taken and want to read a statement here, so if you would give me just a few moments. This is regarding the history related to signage in the township. In the fall of 1987, 40 years after the adoption of zoning in Anderson Township, residents of our community voted to shift the then county-led zoning resolution to be administered and enforced by Anderson Township. One of the driving factors of this decision for local zoning control entailed an effort to better manage signage and resulting clutter, including the very lenient county standards on both permanent and temporary signs, particularly along Beachmont Avenue. At that time, a citizen and business-led committee was formed soon thereafter, and following substantial public input, the township adopted the recommended zoning standards for signage set forth by this group. In the 30 years that have occurred, since that occurred, Anderson Township has worked tirelessly to ensure that signage minimized the impact on safety of the traveling public and was consistent with efforts to enhance the appearance of our community. During that time, these regulations have been revisited on multiple occasions to ensure compliance with federal and state regulations and court decisions. The township has also striven to ensure these guidelines continue to provide our residents and businesses with their First Amendment rights to freedom of speech, while ensuring they help facilitate the implementation of our citizen-led plan. Anderson's signage regulations were, in fact, one of the first in our region to conform with standards that prohibit the regulation of a sign by content. They have been a model for countless other communities. When questions or concerns arise regarding these or any regulation, the township is thorough in its study and analysis to ensure they are still a good fit. In recent years, several questions have arisen which are triggering such a reassessment of several of these standards, specifically sections of the zoning resolution related to temporary signs. After discussing the issue of enforcement of certain parts of the temporary sign regulations with staff, our special zoning council recommended suspending enforcement of two specific parts of the temporary sign regulations. First, the provision in Article 5.5E4 that prohibits a temporary sign being placed within 5 feet from any other temporary sign. And second, the provision in Article 5.5E11E that provides that no property shall display temporary signage for more than 6 months per calendar year. I have therefore instructed staff to suspend enforcement of these two specific parts of the overall temporary sign regulations. All other parts of the temporary sign regulations will be subject to enforcement. This limited suspension of enforcement will give us some time to review whether there are better ways to regulate and enforce temporary sign regulations. Special counsel and I are particularly concerned about the Planning and Zoning Department staff's ability to effectively enforce the provision relating to the 6-month time period, the 5-foot distancing on private property, and the strain such monitoring could put on the Planning and Zoning Department staff in relation to other department priorities. As part of our review, we will also look at the definition of a temporary sign and determine whether the definition can be worded better to focus on the temporary nature of a sign's material and the manner in which the sign is affixed to the ground or structure, with less emphasis on a specific period of time. While this suspension is in place, the township will continue to enforce the remaining sections of the zoning resolution as they relate to temporary signs, including but not limiting to ensuring signs are not placed in the right-of-way. Are there any questions or comments?
It's election season. It's going to get ugly. So I think it's a good.
But this just isn't about an election.
No, it's not.
These are people that have been abusing this privilege for a long time. And it's signs, I mean, we all know what signs we're talking about. There's been signs in this community that have been up for a couple of years now, but it's impossible for us to police it.
Right.
Because they can take them down, put them right back up, and then that clock starts
Yeah,
again.
right. Yeah. Right.
At least according to the way that it reads. And it's just impossible. And what it boils down to, like a lot of other things, is there's a few bad apples taking advantage of this and has ruined it for everybody, basically.
I think staff put it best, and Mr. Drury put it best, in my opinion, and that was, it's about showing respect for each other, each
Yeah.
other's opinions, and in my view, respect for our community. The sign regulations were put into place at the community's request to keep from having numerous signs cluttering street corners, cluttering telephone poles, you name it. And in trying to enforce this, it is taking an inordinate amount of time. Staff have been berated no matter what they do, whether they are trying to enforce it or they're not trying to enforce it. It's a no-win scenario. So we need some additional time to review this and make sure that we get it right and that we're consistent. At no time, never, ever have we regulated signage based on content, and we will not. This is across the board.
I will say thank you. I know this has taken a lot of time, and Paul, for you and your team. It's extremely upsetting and unfortunate for me to hear that you guys have taken abuse and been berated for following the zoning and the sign regulations that, as Vicky has brought up, were put in place by this community, by its members. That's unfortunate. And there is a lot of business that happens in this building and the affiliated businesses every day. It's all hands on deck, and it does take a considerable amount of time. And I appreciate it, and I do think that this is the right thing to do at this time, especially for those two. And as Josh said, it's always a couple in the bunch that aren't showing that respect for their neighbors, and it does make us reconsider it because it has a ripple effect on multiple teams and department heads as these squabbles take place.
But just to reiterate, this does not mean you can put signs in the right of way. That has not been.
Correct. And
Yeah.
the primary, a lot of folks, I'm sure, are curious as to why that exists. You know, we get complaints from people trying to pull out of their street, that they try to turn and there's a bush that's blocking the view or something else that's blocking the view. They don't have a clear line of sight. And the primary reason for keeping signage out of the right-of-way is for public safety. Did you want to add something?
Just distractions.
Yes.
There's enough to follow in the road, and we know that, so.
Yes.
And our inability to go on private property to enforce some of it, so we'll work through it. We always have done well, and appreciate
Yep.
the full speed.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
We have 2 items arising from executive session discussion. They are under tab 1 in your packet.
I move to appoint Michelle Legault as a full-time assistant events coordinator effective September 20th, 2024 at a starting pay rate of $22 an hour, as well as all other benefits normally offered with full-time employment.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. And second, 2 items, what was the second?
The second was the motion to adopt changes to the paid time off accrual and health savings account policies as presented.
It's in section 1, do you have it? Michael?
Yes.
It's at the bottom of that memo. There you
Oh,
go.
okay, I see it. Yep. I move to adopt changes to the paid time off accrual and health savings account policies as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all we have this evening.
Okay, and our next regular board meeting will be October 17th. Executive session will start at 5 p.m. The regular meeting will start, open meeting will start at 5:30. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all. Thanks for
Thanks.
coming.
These are for you. Okay, I thought the farmer's market ended. Right when Labor